The hell.
We both torture people, and we both exist to torture people. It's the main thing we do.
Out to become people who build hell. As time immemorial, you started as a soul. You, like everyone else, are born into this world. You have all the time in the world. Kind of feels like it needs a proofread, but this animation is very cool. You know, some of the lines in the story there, they're very repetitive, and it feels like you could have half as many. We've got a disclaimer telling us that the game is still being developed. And one of the things that I want to point out about this project that I think is really cool, this closed beta, they're running on a Discord and everything, but they're doing their community management in character. So Hell Governor is like an account on the Discord that talks to you and stuff, and I think that's fun. I like it. Okay. I really love this art style. Is this like when you play SimCity and you choose a place where you're building, but in this case there is a disaster and you pick it?
1923 Great Kanto earthquake. It shifted the great Buddha statue in Kamakura, which weighed about 110 tons and was almost 60 centimeters tall, even though it was almost 60 kilometers from the epicenter. The estimated casualties totaled about 142,800 deaths. Just as it is above, so it is below.
Don't know how I feel about these being real natural disasters and about the idea that everyone is going to hell, but I kind of get the impression this isn't a specific religion's afterlife. It's just a sort of kind of fantasy hell like we get in... I mean, we get that in kind of the Sandman stories, where it's sort of based on religions we know, but it's a mishmash. Look at this. This is gorgeous. Really, really pretty, trippy. Some camera work that's making me feel a bit sick, but this is really beautiful and not what I was expecting. Not much fire and brimstone down here yet, but maybe that's my job. Maybe I need to build the fire and the brimstone. Here we go.
Welcome to Hell. As the current governor overseeing this domain, it is crucial that you pay attention. The previous governor has vanished under mysterious circumstances.
Telling people that it's important to pay attention to the tutorial isn't going to make people pay more attention to the tutorial. It's the thing about this sort of game. You can't just say, it's really important, pay attention, and people will do it. That's not how people's minds work with this stuff. But, you know, we're in early access, closed beta. People are going to be invested enough to take the time to learn, but that's something that's going to need to be sorted out in the long run. Actually joined today by a very special guest who's here to talk to us about this game and games in general. This is Satan. In a lot of ways, you and I, we do the same thing, don't we? Do you mean me as a YouTuber or me as a game designer? Well, both really, but in this case I'm talking more about game designers. That game designers, like me, exist to torture people. Could you elaborate on that? We both create situations for people to experience consequences. Building hell is a lot like building a game. You're building a machine to torture people, but that torture really only has any meaning if the souls you're torturing knew it was coming. And that's why we have things like, you know, religious texts saying, you must do this, you mustn't do this. So this is like a holding place, where, like a waiting room, maybe something like that. Purgatoria. Damned souls will be processed here to become a sinner, and those are basically your workers, I guess. Okay, sinner name isn't helpful, but it's got a pickaxe on, so that's helping me understand what they do. They're workers. Sinner will be sent to mine and refinery to produce waste and other usefulness. Every ticking of soul coming in would be a measure of passing moment. Not sure what that means. Not totally clear. Right, it'd be good if these different stages of the tutorial were taking my camera somewhere, because it's sort of relying on me knowing what it's referring to. Souls come to hell scattered all over, but they can't be agitated at this stage. I feel like that's a piece of information which is maybe not relevant yet, because as a new player I don't know or care what agitated means. Right, use WAS to move the camera, rotate the camera, move your mouse cursors to the edge of the screen. You can also move the camera, hold right mouse button to drag, and it's making me do these actions to tick them off, which is good. This is good. I like that the tutorial was making you do the things. That's helpful. Blood, waste, cries, and fear. the 4 main food groups. Green blood, yellow waste, blue cries, well, it's tears, right? Tears rather than cries, and fear. I see what they're doing. Let's see how easy these things are to remember, because there's not going to be an obvious relationship between these and what you're doing with them, I think. Right, souls are neutral characters. Agitation and turning rates are shown in the statistics page. Pay attention to these values because they affect the souls. The higher the agitation rate, the faster the souls get agitated. The higher the turning rate, the higher the chance of souls turning into a sadist unit. All souls must queue up at the wait before becoming a sinner. The sinner will play the role at the base of society, the working class, and there thus shall be the primal workforce that will aid you in governing. Soldiers are all the friendly units. Soldier units help the Hell Governor, and they destroy sadists. Sadists are all the hostile units. I'm not sure sadist is the right word for that. Units that are rebelling against you, I don't know. The heart can produce blood. Blood is used to power the blood pathways and for building. Okay, so the green heart is related to the blood resource, which is kind of like our electricity, as far as I can tell. Waste is a building material for construction, which is why it looks like a brick. Cries are used to research and learn the laws and sanctions through the dreadful tree. All of this is so thematically all over the place. I think it's cool, but I think it's going to be hard for people to learn what all these things represent and what they do, because it's so divorced from the resources and the uses of resources that we normally have associations with. And although this is really thematically cool that it has all these differences, it could lead to a game that's just really difficult for people to understand.
If you make the instructions too complex, then when people get tortured for not following them, they feel like it's unfair. If someone lives their whole life in a town where there's a priest saying, don't kick puppies, and every day they, sneak down a back alley, they give a puppy a little kick, then when they wind up down here, they know full well why they're here. And that's what I want. That's job satisfaction for me, is for people to be punished in a way where they understand how these consequences linked to things they did. Can't just have people burning in hell for eternity and not knowing why. We had a few thousand years like that, and it was really bad for the metrics, and it just caused quite a lot of chaos down here. And since we've kind of realigned on our strategy, we went back to the whiteboard and kind of came up with some new approaches. And
fears are used mostly for activating the 7 deadly sins. In a way, these aren't going to be too hard to remember, because from left to right it seems like the most commonly used thing, the most basic thing, is on the left, and then the resource that's furthest to the right is like the thing that you accrue the most slowly and is used for like the big game ending thing, whatever that is. So although I'm not going to have an easy time remembering what these things do, I can at least get a sense of like, oh, these things on the left is what I should be getting all the time, and these things on the right are more like long-term goals for research and doing the 7 deadly sins, whatever that means in this game. A decree will appear from time to time. It will give you choices, and the choice will affect your upcoming gameplay. Okay. I mean, I would hope so. Sometimes the decree will be advantageous, sometimes it will come with a handicap. Managing your governments with your choices. This is the kind of thing where, in your tutorial design, rather than bombarding people with everything up front, wait until this is relevant to bring it in. Yeah, I'm seeing too much tutorial in one go, I don't want to know about decrees until I've built some buildings or whatever I'm supposed to be doing. This is just far too much to read. I haven't had a chance to do anything. Right, I need to permanently reduce agitation by 10%, but increase turning. this is too early to give the player this choice, because I kind of loosely know what these things mean from the previous tutorial stuff, but I haven't had a chance to feel them in the game. So this is just throwing too much at me too quickly. Giving people choices before they understand those choices is not great. Right, I really need to build something before I get any more tutorial, or this is just frustrating at this stage. Let me build something. Just let me build something. Stop telling me stuff. Stop telling me stuff. I'm so sick of being told stuff in a text box. I just want to build a thing. Let me build one thing. Right. I'm going to build it there. I don't know why. I just want the roads touching, connecting things. At the Purgatoria, hold the left mouse button to drag the slider for hauler, miner, and... I know you want to give people a good tutorial, but you have to find a way to teach people how to do things bit by bit slowly. Don't tell them how things work, show them how things work. I know it's very hard to build a game that has that in from the get-go, but... So Tower of Fear and Tower of Hate, right? They make sense in Hell. That I don't know what they do. People live in them, I guess. But Tower of Death... That's like deafness, like being not being able to hear, which is sort of conflating hell and sins with a disability, which I don't like. But maybe that's just a spelling error. I guess maybe because this is a tutorial level, it just starts off a bit more built than it might do. But he's a wandering sinner. Why are you a wandering sinner? I want you to do some building. Totally relatable. Just vibing. Just vibing in a big hole.
I've always had an interest in the arts.
This is basically the training place. How do I get them to go there? They're like wandering around, refusing to do any work, and they're like, sorry mate, I couldn't go to the job centre today because there was no road. So I'm just walking around in the fields instead. The art direction of this game is really cool. I love the mix of the 3D, the 2D art. I think the UI looks good. I think the choice of text in the UI is pretty good. This typography can look a little bit fuzzy, and I don't know if that's my graphic settings, but it does look a little bit fuzzy in places. But I think overall the art direction of this is really cool, and I can see they've deliberately not gone for a fire and brimstone kind of hell, although that might be something that comes up later. I'm really impressed with how this game looks. I just think, so far from a game design perspective, it's told me too much without making me have to do the things sequentially in order. And that's led to a situation where, you know, I just get given too much information before I get to actually do something and build something. It's like the tutorial has explained what I need to know in the next 10 or 20 minutes, but it hasn't explained what I need to know in the first 5 minutes. Like, how do I get these guys to go and dig waste? How do I get them to build the thing that I told them to build? They're not doing anything. I can't directly control them. And maybe I've missed a stage of the tutorial that's supposed to tell me that, but I'm going to go back one more time and see what I missed in the tutorial. And I know I'm being impatient and I'm skipping bits and everything, but you just have to bear in mind that that is what players will do. If that's what I do, and I grew up on these games, you know, I grew up on SimCity, I grew up on Dungeon Keeper, and I sort of expect to be able to learn how to play by experimenting, and for the tutorial to sort of be there in tooltips and stuff like that, so that if you miss a key part of the tutorial, you can probably still find the information somewhere. They will be sent to the mine and refinery to produce waste. Will they? That's not what happened to me before. They didn't get sent anywhere. Use the left mouse button on the blood path to go into build road. Okay, why is it called a blood path? Oh, because... Oh, I get it now. The paths are power, right? So they are going from the hearts to other things. I'm an idiot. Right. So I'm gonna connect my blood paths up so that we've got some redundancy. Okay, so the blood is like water in SimCity. Buildings that consume blood will need to be connected to a powered blood path to operate if they're... Yeah. If I can assume that all buildings consume blood, then I can connect the buildings up and I just treat it like water in SimCity, right? If I'm supposed to know which of these buildings need blood and which don't, then there should be some easy way of seeing that. I'm just going to assume that they all need it because it's blood and everyone needs some bloody blood. What I'm confused by is the UI says you're building a road. And this is not a road, this is a pipe. Looks like an underground river of stuff. But units can walk on blood paths for faster travels. But that doesn't look... Okay, so it's like a river when you're getting closer. I think the first time I played this I managed to skip some steps of this and I got locked out of the tutorial basically. So we assign some jobs. So I think somehow I was able to lock myself out of the tutorial because it's got further along this time. See, I've set all of these things up. Why have I still got a wandering sinner when I've told them to do stuff? They are going and building now. They are... Maybe they're walking on the blood path, but they seem to be avoiding it, so... I think this conflation of roads and fluids is a bit confusing because when you're building them it feels like you're building pipeways for water like in SimCity, and then it says that they get the units move faster on it, but they're not walking down them, they're walking past them. So these are either power lines or they're transport, but it says they're both and they don't seem to be operating as both. Way, we actually built something, right? So I know this is partly me being stupid, but it's taken way too long to get to the point where I've been able to build a thing. It looks like the hut doesn't need blood, so I'm not going to connect it to the blood network, and that might be wrong, but there's nothing here indicating that it needs to be. So I need to build 6 of these, build them straight away. You spoke earlier about the relationship between sort of choice and consequence. Can you say a little bit more about that and, you know, how it relates to your work and how it relates to game design possibly for the people at home?
Well, we're both in the line of working with agency. Agency is what human beings feel or what they have when they understand the relationship between their choices and the consequences. So if you give people a choice but they don't have the information or the experience to understand the consequences, they don't have agency, and that can feel very frustrating for them. It can feel very unfair for them. When people get outcomes they don't expect, they don't feel agency, and you game designers, what your job is really is to construct machines in which the link between those choices and consequences is very deliberate. I can imagine there might be some types of games you would build where you want people to feel a lack of agency. For example, if it's a game that's supposed to make them feel sad about puppies getting kicked or something like that, you might want to manipulate people's emotions by creating a sense that they don't have any agency and they can't predict the outcomes of their own choices. But most of the time, you know, a video game is more like hell, really, in the sense that you want there to be a very clear relationship between, you know, what someone did wrong and why they're getting their eyeballs scooped out with ice cream scoops on a daily basis and then, you know, having them regenerate.
I think it said I need to build a warehouse, which is weird because I already have them. I don't understand what the grid represents around the thing I'm building. Like, in terms of those lines coming out of the building, what does that mean? And I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about the waste being a building material. It doesn't make sense on a bunch of different levels, and it's very confusing that I've had to build these. I thought I already had a thing there that they could get resources from. I'm not sure what hauling involves in this at the moment. Wandering. And like, I've got a lot of wandering sinners. What can I do about that? Because I've given people jobs. There's a lot of stuff in this situationally where I just don't have control over something. I've got a lot of wandering sinners that don't have a job. I've got a way of assigning them jobs over here. And I've got no way of making them come over here and do what they're supposed to be doing. What's the deal with that? What am I supposed to do about that? Can I make them come down here quicker if I think this is really promising so far. I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it, but I love the premise. I love the art style. I think there's lots of good stuff going on here. But I do really want the first mission to make me build stuff from scratch, like totally from scratch. It's much less meaningful to come into a heart is like a power plant here. And I don't build the first one. There's one there already and it says, this is the heart. And then it's like, everything I should be building on this list, there's already one on the map. Here's all the stuff, build a bit more of it. It's not how I would expect a city builder to start you off. Don't know where he came from, but I set some security up and now I've got this guy. He's cool. Can I do that anywhere? What? Right, I can't do it there. I can make them up. I'm gonna just put sentries on the warehouses because I can. I don't know why I wouldn't always have 5. Who knows? Who knows? Right, what's to stop me just putting all of these down straight away? One of the things I tend to look for when I'm playing this sort of game, if it's City Skylines or whatever it is, I want to be able to have a plan in my head of like, oh, over there is where the shopping centre is going to be, and over here will be all the industrial estate. And even in something like Frostpunk, which I think this is going to be more similar to, there's a sense of like beauty of like how you're trying to arrange things. And I'm not sure if that exists in this game. And it'd be interesting to see what other members of the community who are already testing this and playing it a lot, be interesting to see what they've been making. So, you know, if you see this video and you're one of the developers or you're one of the other playtesters and you've got footage of your builds, I'd be really interested to see what people have been making, because at the moment it's like, you know, these games are like a toy train set of all these parts. And while I love the theme and I see a lot of good stuff going on here, I don't look at it and think, oh, I really want to build a big intricate hell. There's not going to be a lot of customization to anything I build in this, because it's just kind of functional. I can't really tell what I as a player can do to make any of this operate in a more efficient way. Change where I build stuff. I guess I can build my refineries closer to the waste piles, and I can maybe do stuff with the roads, but the roads don't seem to be having any impact on anything apart from, you know, they're on or off, right? So yeah, I mean, what buildings do need blood? I can't see anywhere that really needs it. There's lots of things I just don't have any control over, like all of these wandering sinners that I don't seem to be able to do anything with. Maybe it's just because there aren't enough jobs because I need to just queue up loads of things to be built or something like that, but I just feel like I don't have enough control over any of the things I'm supposed to be doing. Right, this refinery's been here in a build queue for ages and no one's coming to build it, and I don't know how I would force anyone to build it, right? Very strange. I've got a lot of hopes for this game. I'm gonna check it out again in future, but I think at this stage I've hit a point where, you know, if I wasn't playing this for the channel and testing it and trying to understand it really thoroughly, if I was just playing this as a random game, I would have probably quit already, because I just don't feel enough control over things, and stuff the game is telling me to do, I can't speed it up. I can't grab a bunch of units and tell them, hey, go and help out over there.
that needs building faster. It's up to them when they do it. And that doesn't make me feel like an overlord of hell. That makes me feel like all my workers kind of just do what they want when they want. I want more direct control over more things in this game, and I want to be able to feel like a tyrant, because that's the central thematic promise of this setting, to be a lord in hell, right? I should be able to feel like a tyrant. In Dungeon Keeper, you can pick units up, and that feels funny and slapstick, and you can also slap them with this floating hand, and that feels funny and slapstick, and it makes you feel like a bad guy. At the moment, all of the stuff in this world is just kind of analogous to things in the real world, like a normal city planner. And while your theme of being an evil Lord of Hell is baked into all of this, it's not really there in the moment-to-moment gameplay, right? I'm not making decisions that feel evil. I'm not slapping this guy. I'm not, like, selecting a bunch of sinners who are really tired and telling them, no, go over there, do more work. Well, Satan, it's been fascinating talking to you. Do you have anything else that you might want to say to our audience at home before we wrap this up?
Back when I started this job, we didn't really have video games or games like you understand them now. There were things, people raced, people wrestled, people had contests. We had in Babylon, we had the game of which was like really rubbish backgammon. But game design has really come on leaps and strides since then, and I think when I look on the mortal realm, I see lots of game designers who I think could have a job down here one day, because you're very good at making machines to torture people with. A good game designer is someone who can say, hey you, make a choice, and then punish people for bad choices. So I think, I really do feel an affinity for game designers. So what I could say to your audience out there watching this is, keep up the good work, and I might have a job down here for you in a couple of decades.
I want more control over what's happening in the moment to moment. I want to be able to direct a little bit more of what's going on, and if you can find a way of doing that which will make the player feel more evil, then this game will live up to what it's promising. But at the moment it feels like the hell theme is just a reskin of a very standard feeling city builder, and it needs to feel more evil. At least that's my opinion, and I am quite evil, so I am an expert on this.